Hello, everyone. This is Independent Conservative. Thank you all for joining me once again. I want to do something special in this video, and it's really something that's dear to me because I want people to understand my point of view on this. Now, the last video I did in reference to Mayor Mandani and his attempt to essentially take control of the grocery stores, to create government-owned, government-controlled grocery stores. My last video on that got a lot of negative feedback. I mean, I don't think in the commentary section, I don't think I got hardly any positive feedback at all about that. And it bothered me at first. It kind of disturbed me. I wasn't sad and depressed because I don't, if people's opinions about my opinions doesn't make me sad or depressed, but it does concern me because I'm thinking that I'm saying, well, maybe I'm wrong about this. And then I felt God spoke to my heart and said, you're not wrong about something that you've been reading and studying for years. Okay. It's just a matter of perspective that a lot of people look at communism and socialism from the perspective of what they see in the mainstream news or from something they hear in school or from something that they've read themselves. If you read books that favor socialism and favor communism, then of course you're going to have a favorable opinion of it. If you read and absorb material that's the opposite of what I talk about, then of course you're going to be in disagreement to what I'm saying, no matter what I say. And that's okay, because my objective is not to convince anyone to believe what I'm pushing or to believe my opinion, or I would like for that to be the case, but that's not my objective. I give my opinion and I give my view, and people can say what they want to say. But I'm going to say this. It has been documented. And I'm going to go a little further in this video because I really want people to understand this from a written perspective. It has been documented time and time again that communism and socialism in the long run is never a successful endeavor. That is history. That's not my opinion. That's not what I think. I've read people in the commentary section saying things like, you making this stuff up. At this point, you making this stuff up. Really? I mean, that sounds really articulate, but am I making this stuff up? I don't make stuff up. Okay. Now, I could have put that in the commentary section, but I just didn't feel like it because I was so kind of aggravated. It was like, come on, man, please. I'd have probably put something in there would have been, because I got to watch what I say. I got to watch what I put in the commentary section, because sometimes when some of the responses are just some of the most illegitimate responses that I've ever read. And I'm like, have you even listened to the entire video? Are you listening to anything that I'm actually saying? How in the world am I making up anything about Mandani wanting to create government-controlled, government-owned grocery stores, and that eventually that's going to turn out to be eventually disastrous in the long run? How is that? How am I making it up? Now, what I'm going to do, since people think that I'm making this up, since people are starting to favor communism, having no understanding of what it is, from the way I see it, from having no understanding of what it is, what it's all about, what Karl Marx is all about, having this favor, to have this fantasized, romanticized concept of Karl Marx, and he just wanted to help the people, and he just wanted to really, a man that hates God, that hates private property, that was an immoral failure at just about everything he did. Really? He loved people? Are you serious? I mean, I could go into detail about his book and all of the rest, but I'm not going to go into the detail of that in this video. Because the man was a complete failure. Was he smart? Yes, he was smart, but he was smart in a demonic, satanic way. Satan is smart. Okay? The devil is smart. And it ain't the white man either. He's a spirit. But anyway, I digress. People have this favorable worldview of communism and socialism. And I think that's dangerous. I think that's a dangerous road to take, because if that system of communism is really put into place, which eventually is going to end up happening, eventually, I hope I'm not here when it happens. But if that happens and America becomes a total communist country using AI to control us, we are done for. It's over for us. You and I'm not going to be. But people that embrace that nonsense are going to be slaves to the system in a way that they could not even remotely conceive or imagine. And you think I'm making that up. Now, I'm not making it up. I'm just not giving you the detail. I've read up on all of that. I'm just not giving the detail. Okay, I don't have time to give you the detail in this video. What I want to do in this video is I want to read from several passages, paragraphs from a couple of books that I purchased from a news source known as Epoch Times. Now, some of you may be familiar with Epoch Times, but I was at once a subscriber to Epoch Times. I had to cancel my subscription because I couldn't afford it. But they're one of the most unbiased and most informative news sources that I know of. They don't completely side on. They don't completely take sides on either one. They don't completely say I'm conservative. They don't completely say I'm liberal, whatever. They state the facts as they see them. Now, this publication of Epoch Times came from China. Now, you may say, "Oh, wait a minute, isn't China a communist country?" Well, these individuals, okay, that are reporters and journalists from China are independent of the Chinese communist government. China right now is a communist government that mixes capitalism in their economic endeavors. At one point, they were completely communist, but they saw, okay, that destroyed the lives of millions of people. Millions of people starved to death because of that worldview. So the next president had to change that up. The next leader of China had to change it up because that form of system was not working. They maintained their communist grip, but they allowed corporations and businesses to go ahead and manufacture and do the things that capitalism does, okay? Because they knew that to completely take control of all the factories and take control of all the businesses and consolidate all the power into their hands would end up once again leading to the starvation of millions of people. Now, with that being said, these individuals from Epoch Time, the writers of Epoch Time, wrote a series of books on communism. It's however you want to put it, however you want to look at it, it's from the perspective of people who lived in a communist country, from the perspective of people who understand communism because they've lived in a communist country. Most of us, as a matter of fact, no Americans have lived in a communist country. So, of course, we are not going to say anything, negative about it unless we've been read up on it. Most people, all people, I would argue, in America have never lived in a communist country or even a communist state. So we have no idea of the horrors that people that have been in communist countries that have come over here. We have no idea of the horrors of a communist and the socialist countries. We have no idea of them. All we know is what the politicians, who many of them are communists and many of them are socialists, tell us. And we believe it because, after all, we're struggling financially. We don't have enough money to do this. We don't have enough money to do that. We're struggling. Our jobs are not paying us enough to pay the bills. And so these communist reporters, these communist politicians, these communist school teachers brainwash us and condition us into believing that capitalism, free market capitalism, ain't the way to go, and communism and socialism is the way to go. What are you going to do when you're struggling? If you don't have a strong mind, you're going to accept that worldview. If you don't have an informed mind, you're going to accept that worldview. I'm the one that won't do that because I know what it's all about. Now, that may sound arrogant, but I'm not being arrogant. I'm just being confident and speaking with authority in what I believe. Now, with that being said, let's get into this discussion. And this is kind of like part 2 of the video that I did on Mandani, wanting to create these government-owned, government-controlled grocery stores in New York City. And it's a response to people that think that I'm just making this up. That you crazy, Ryan. You crazy, Bolin. You crazy, conservative, independent conservative. You're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. Communism is woo, 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 rah, 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 communism, rah, 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 socialism. Okay, I'm just going to read a small excerpt to you from several books from the Epoch Time, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about this, because the consolidation of power from the elites never turns out good for anybody. Over the long run, it never turns out good. Let's get into this. So here's one. It's the name of it. Some of you might even own it. I hope that if anyone on this is watching this video and they own these books, The Specter of Communism, then I'm pretty sure you know communism is not good. What Mandani is pushing is not good. So let me read you this. Now, this is in reference to the consolidation of power and when the government, communist government, and this can go into the hands of fascism as well. But here we're dealing with communism because both of them are basically the same system. It's all about consolidation of power and nationalization. I'm going to read several paragraphs to you written by these journalists and written by these editors to show you from their own personal perspective and intensive research what it's all about and what it leads to. And it says, most of communism's victims were killed by man-made famines. Between 1932 and 1933, mass starvation caused by the Soviet Communist Party killed millions of people, mostly peasants, across the regions of Ukraine. Sounds familiar, right? Southern Russia and Central Asia. The Ukrainian famine, known as the Holodomor, I hope I'm saying that right. Please forgive me. I get tongue-tied. I have a lips, so be patient. Okay, for those of you that have been watching my videos for any extended period of time, you know that. Be patient. Pray for me. I love you. God bless you. Okay. Claimed the lives of about 4 million people. Let's go on. After the Civil War ended in 1922, the Communist Party's imposition of collective farming met with widespread resistance from the Ukrainian peasantry. To deal with this, the Soviet regime classified a majority of skilled farmers under the derogatory term kulaks and exiled them to Western Siberia and the republics of Central Asia. The removal of these farmers was a huge loss to Ukrainian agriculture, and in 1932, production plummeted. You think? It goes on to say, in the winter of 1932 and 1933, the Soviet government cut off food supplies to Ukraine and set up security fences along the borders. At first, Ukrainians survived on the stored vegetables and potatoes in their home, but these were soon requisitioned by party authorities. In other words, they took the government, the communist government, went in these people's homes and took all their stored food. That's consolidation. That's government control of products. It's the same principle, only here it was done through violence. With Mandani, it's done through coercion, trickery, and lies. That's how they do. They're not communists in the West, socialists in the West is not going to come with guns blazing in our homes and in our grocery store and say, hey, give us everything and take all your possessions from you with force. They do it through legislation, persuasion, lies, and trickery. That's how they do it. Next thing you know, the government owns and controls everything, and we sitting around feeling happy when in reality we're nothing more than slaves who are basically moving at the whims of politicians who are basically have taken all of your possessions for themselves and are divvying it out to you in little bits and pieces and crumbs. It's still the same reality, just in a different way. I don't know why people don't understand that, but they will. They will. Americans that keep putting these communists and socialists in office over the long run, they will. And I will sit back and say, I told you so. I'm not going to be silent about it. I'm going to say, I told your end. I told you. You didn't listen to me because you thought I was making it up. I'm making it up at this point. Okay, keep on believing that. And vote for these communists and vote for these socialists. Put them in office. I want you to, because I want you to see how messed up that is. How messed up you're going to be. Anyway, look at this. A large number of farmers starved to death. You don't think? The authorities prevented villagers. Now watch this. This part that got me. The authorities prevented villagers from traveling to the cities in search of food. Many people starved to death as they walked along the railroads. In desperation, people turned to eating the dug up carcasses of cats, dogs, and livestock. Some even resorted to cannibalism. But communism is the way to go. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen with Mandani. I'm not saying that. That would be this is an extreme case done in a more violent case. But I am saying that the government taking control of the grocery stores inevitably is going to end up disastrous. Food is going to start running out and all the rest. I hope it don't lead to starvation. But anyway, the Holodomor famine left more than 1 million Ukrainian children orphaned. See, ideas have consequences. Good ideas have good consequences. Bad ideas have bad consequences. It's not rocket science. The paragraph goes on to say, many of them became homeless and had no choice but to beg for food in the cities. To eliminate this embarrassment, Stalin signed orders authorizing police, get this now, to shoot children as young as 12. Good old-fashioned communism. Whoop! Whoop! It's so compassionate. It's so kind. People that are communists and socialists, they love you. They want you to be blessed. They want you to be happy. Now, I'm not saying that Mandani is like that. I'm not saying he's like that, but I'm not saying he isn't either. I'm not saying, oh, he's just a nice guy. Just because somebody has a good campaign and just because somebody smiles and they're very articulate in the way they put their ideas and they can take certain things that are real and connect them to their campaign strategies doesn't make them a saint. Let me quote a scripture to you. 2 Corinthians chapter 12 says, be not deceived, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. You get the metaphor. Satan ain't going to come out and say, I'm the devil. He's not going to say that. He's going to say, I'm the baddest man you ever, I'm here for you and I love you. And these conservatives hate you and God hates you and I love you. And these capitalists, they just want to destroy your life and they get greedy. And even though there is greed among capitalists, yes, there is, the way the communists and socialists put it, oh, they just the most horrible people in the world. And you just come on over my side. Come on over to my side. And they're just as corrupt and greedy, if not more so, than the so-called capitalists. That's history. That ain't my opinion. But anyway, let's go on. During the famine, bodies of starvation victims could be seen all over the streets of Kharkov, the capital of Soviet Ukraine at the time. I don't know if I'm reading that right, but pronouncing it right. But yeah. You say, well, man, that's kind of an extreme view of the consolidation of power. Yes, it is. But I read that to show you the extreme aspects of the government taking control of food distribution. That's just another form of it, but it's the same principle behind it. Now, I hope I'm making sense here. Now, let me read you this. This is a more subtle way, okay? The heading for this particular chapter is State Ownership and Planned Economics, which is what Mandani falls into the category of. State plan, state ownership. In other words, government owning something. Oh, that's interesting. Let's go on. Let's see what he means. Marx and Engels stated in the Communist Manifesto, the theory of the communists may be summed up in a single sentence: abolition of private property. Since Mandani is a communist, quiet as it may be kept, the whole purpose, come on, communists operate the same all the time. Doesn't matter where. It don't matter where they do it, how they do it. They all operate the same. It's always about the government taking control of private property. They don't believe people should have private property. Give it to us, the government. We know how to run it. History shows the opposite of that, though, doesn't it? Yeah. This is a reference to state ownership, which under a planned economy is mandatory. In communist planned economies, the means of production are directly controlled by the state. The essence of this system violates heaven's principles, runs contrary to human nature, and eliminates and ultimately is a form of slavery. Now, you can argue all about capitalism, or it's a form of slavery, and to some extent, the super capitalists, the international banking families, and so forth, have enslaved a lot of us to some extent. But free market capitalism, which I'm a avid supporter of, does not enslave anyone. Free market capitalism. That means you have a business that you want to create. You have the right to create it. You have the freedom to create it, and you can sell it. You can give it, put a price on it, and then sell it. And then the buyer or the market has the money and the desire to buy that product. That's free market capitalism, and I'm 100% in support of that. I am not in support of the super capitalist international banking families and the multinational corporations that's buying up everything. I don't support that. So let me make myself clear, but I do support free market capitalism. This is something communists do not support, and Mandani, whatever you want to pronounce his name, does not support that. Proof of that is the fact that he wants to create government-owned grocery stores. That's not free market capitalism. That's not free market capitalism. That's state ownership. Anyway. Let's read on here. Oh, man. I was going to read you guys this poem, but I ain't going to read the poem. It's kind of long. This story vividly displays the consequences and differences between systems of private and state ownership. Under the system of state ownership, resources and the gains from labor are nationalized. Gone are the mechanisms that motivate individual enthusiasm, ambition, and innovation, along with a sense of responsibility conveyed by personal property rights. So if the government controls everything and owns everything, let's assume somebody's in that government and they're working in that government-owned grocery store that Mandani wants to create and produce, and they're working. Well, clearly they're not getting paid based on someone buying the product. That's not necessarily what that ain't it. They're getting paid based on taxes, on the workers' taxes. What kind of ambition would those workers have? What? They want to get a promotion? Really? They're probably going to all get paid the same amount of money. What kind of ambition is it if the government controls everything and controls all the means of production? It kills your ambition to want to be anything. It causes you to be lazy. Why do anything? Why? Why aspire to be anything? Why aspire to produce anything when the government controls it all and owns it all? Why? It kills your motivation. Is that a good thing? No, it's not a good thing the way I see it. Who wants a nation full of lazy people? Well, the communist government does. But in reality, is that really how things should be? No. Let's go on. In name, state ownership means that the wealth of a country is shared by all citizens. But in practice, it means that the privileged class monopolizes resources and looks after itself first. It looks after itself first. Let me read that again. In name, state ownership means that the wealth of a country is shared by all citizens. Sounds really, noble, doesn't it? Oh, it's all about if the government owns everything and controls the grocery stores and everything else, it's all about us all sharing together in love and unity. Oh, I love you and I love you too, and the government loves us and they just want us to be prosperous. Really? Well, the artist says, but in practice, it means that the privileged class monopolizes resources and looks after itself first. Oh, so communists are accusing and have been accusing the capitalists of monopolizing power. Okay, you can argue that, boo-boo. But the problem is it's hypocritical because every communist regime have done the same thing. Duh. That's what he said. They've done the same thing. They've done the same thing in every communist country, from China, Russia, and all the way down. When the communist regime finally took control of those countries, guess who was rich and who was poor? The communist regime was filthy rich off of stealing the people's properties and hoarding it to themselves, and then they divvy bits and pieces of it to the people, claiming to be the moral avatars of the world off of somebody else's possessions. You're about the most lying, crazy, demonic piece of trash in creation. That's what this is all about. But I'm making this up. Let me read a little bit further. The ultimate factor in economic growth is people. State ownership chokes people's vitality and motivation to be productive, and it does. It undermines morale, promotes inefficiency, and creates oversupply or gross shortages. Didn't I just mention that? From Soviet collective farms to the people's communes in China, to failed collectivism in Cambodia and North Korea, the system of state ownership brings starvation wherever it goes. For example, the man-made famine in China killed tens of millions of people between 1959 and 1961. That's it. That's all I'm going to read right there. You get the point. I'm not saying it's going to be to that extreme with Mandani. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's going to be to that extreme. But there's going to be eventually down the line, if he does consolidate, if he does take control of the grocery stores and so forth, down the line, that's what's going to eventually happen. There's going to be shortages. And when people come to the grocery store to get whatever they want to get, they're not going to be able to get it. You think it's shortages now, wait till that happens. May not happen overnight. You may, oh, look at all this food. Okay, let me just see, because it's free. And if it's free or very, very inexpensive, 5 cents for a loaf of bread, how many loaves of bread do you think people are going to buy? Let's assume it's free. How much stuff do you think people are going to hoard for themselves if it's not divvied out to them? Come on, man. Be realistic. Free ain't free. Somebody somewhere down the line going to pay for it. But I'm making it up. Just saying. So I just wanted to say that because I wanted to make myself clear as to where I stand on this, as to where I stand in the worldview of Mandani. He is a socialist at the very least. And it is not a good thing, period. I don't care how good he smiles, how well he speaks. He's a great smiler. I love his personality. He's very charismatic. I agree with all of that. But for me, that don't win me over. It's his worldviews and policies that win me over. Not how articulate he speaks. Not how beautiful his smile is. Not how handsome he is. Not how great his campaign is. I read through all of that nonsense. So, believe what you want, but I'm just saying, that's just how I believe. I'm not going to change my view on communism. I'm not going to change my view on socialism because I'm pretty read up on it. And I didn't just start yesterday. Those are dangerous worldviews. They're dangerous philosophies. They're dangerous regimes. And they will utterly destroy this country if we implement that on a city-to-city and state-to-state basis. You can forget about anything that you like to do and want to do. You can forget about it because communism is all about absolute control. You can holler and hoop. People can holler and hoop all about fascism. It's the same thing. But communism ain't no better. In fact, it's worse. I'm just saying. That's my word on it. Hey, if you have any comments, leave your comment in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe to my channel. God bless you all and see you again.